put your hands together for Justin Trimm.
Hey, how's it going? Well, you know what they say, save your best for second to last. That's the saying, right? It is now. It's been an interesting day for me.
20 seconds.
Yeah, try not to. I can't talk. What else is going on? Thanks.
Absolutely, sorry.
But yeah, earlier today I was my dream girl got away. I wasn't even that upset though, because it's really impressive that a quadriplegic could escape a trunk. And if you couldn't handle that, it's only going to get worse. A lighter note though, I've been trying to lose some weight because I'd like to be able to wear certain colors again. Like, if I wear green, I look like the Incredible Hulk in his feelings. I tried putting on a black t-shirt, but we're like, is it February again? Yellow, how'd the sun get on the planet? I'm not that fat yet, but I have been having more and more trouble trying to find my penis in the morning. And by trouble, I mean, like, it's actually part of my daily routine now, that I can say that to you, that that's a step when I wake up. So I started giving it a nickname. I'm calling it Santa. Because I can't really prove if it exists, and maybe occasionally it gets a little too close to children than it should. We're going to let it settle down. We're going to take a break from the stand-up right now because I have a sponsor I need to talk about. They help promote my shows. Vagisil. Just a quick little line. People often ask me, Justin, how are you so successful with the ladies? My answer, ladies and gentlemen, Vagisil. Thank you. Oh, man. Well, you know, despite having some great Santa pedophile jokes, I actually do not have the best luck with women. Believe it or not. I know, shocking. That just hurts. Almost want to cry. It's okay. He does. She'll go home alone tonight and cry in a tub. It's okay. But back to what I was saying. Like, for example, I once met this, like, cute girl, and she had this adorable thing where she would snort when she laughed real hard. And I just got my words really mixed up. I thought I was saying, hey, do you want to go out on a date with me? But instead, I accidentally drowned a puppy. You guys know how it is, right? Just a slip of the words. Oh, man. If you notice me shaking a little bit up here, I'm not nervous, despite the warm response I'm getting from some of you. I have this thing called Tremors, and I know it sounds cool. I love Kevin Bacon too. But surprisingly, no, it's not the movie. I just tend to shake a lot for no good reason. But you know, there's pros and there's cons. Like, you know, I never feel my phone on vibrate. If any of you have a newborn, I probably shouldn't hold them. And it makes masturbation a lot easier. I can just kind of stand here and get the job done and shake that up. But one last thing to end on real quick tonight is it was a pretty rough few years for my family. Unfortunately, some of them are still alive. And it really got roughest when my friend lost his girlfriend in a car accident. And I'm like, hey man, look at the bright side. I still got to keep my license. And there's still enough of her car left in the grill to do some carpool. Who knows, maybe I am good at hitting on women after all. It's Justin Trimm here too. Hi folks, my name is Justin Trimm and I'd like to welcome you to my documentary about the comedy scene here in Syracuse, a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, as this is where I got my start doing comedy. Well, technically this is where I got my start. I know, right? Good times. Good times. But yeah, I really hope you enjoy the film. There's going to be a lot of interviews with some of our greatest local comedians. Sadly, I couldn't get to all the local comedians. They're pretty busy people, making folks all around the state laugh. And that being said, I think we should just get this show on the road. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let's get ready to...
Well, what got me into Syracuse comedy? Well, because I'm from Syracuse, so I live in Syracuse, so it's pretty easy to start in the Syracuse comedy scene when you live in Syracuse. But what got me into comedy was, man, I just enjoy making people laugh, and I was working this part-time job, third shift at this store or whatever, man, and I always felt I was better than my situation, so I just decided to try comedy, man. I had a gift for always making people laugh, so.
Actually, I started my comedy career in New York City. My first set ever was in February, I think, of 2005 at Stand Up New York, which is kind of a pretty legendary comedy club. I did it in New York City for 6 years, and then I moved to Syracuse, and I thought my career was over. And it turned out Syracuse was actually a pretty good place to work on your act and establish, at least for me, establish myself.
Well, we opened the Central New York Playhouse in November of 2012. And our first, thoughts of what this place was going to be all about stage shows, plays, musicals, and that still is our focus. But even with doing 10 to 12 stage shows a year, we found that we had many, we had improv comedy and stuff. We found that we still had some dark nights on Fridays and Saturdays that we needed to fill. And I had a wild idea. Let's start seeing if we can get some stand-up comedy in here. And, Funny Bone had opened, but there wasn't a real local place. Funny Bone does some local comics, but they usually on Wednesdays or Thursdays or Tuesdays and or Sunday nights, and we wanted to do something on a Friday or Saturday. And I met Anna Phillips, who is like the queen of local comedy, and I asked her if she would start putting on a couple of stand-up comedy shows, and she did. It started with our first one was on Good Friday, which we didn't have a show going on, so we called it Bad Friday Comedy Show.
Well, it's Syracuse, and I didn't have much else to do. And, I was just like a workaholic, and I just started talking. I just was, I would always crack jokes at work, and people would just say, you should do stand-up comedy. And I just got super depressed for I'm not up from up here, and all of my friends moved away after they finished school. And I stayed, and I was just super depressed. All I did was work and go back home. And then finally, I was watching hours and hours of TV, and especially Comedy Central. And I was like, maybe I should get myself out of this funk by being publicly humiliated. I just thought, for some reason, that was my thinking. If I go to open mic, I'll bomb so bad that then I'll get over the fear of, you know, it's like going bungee jumping if you have a fear of heights. I don't know why that makes sense to me, but.
Yeah, it's all right. It's humbling. It's humbling. I mean, on Friday, you can feel like you're the funniest person in the world. You're the funniest motherfucker. Like, you on the right track. And on Saturday, you be like, oh, damn, I done made the wrong decision. I done fucked up my life. I done sold my girl on this dream, and I suck. And on Sunday, you can be like, yeah, bitch, you picked a winner. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a roller coaster ride for me right now, but I definitely enjoy it, man.
And the first year, we were kind of feeling our way through what we wanted to do. And then in August of last year, we decided to switch over to a competition format. And that's where we really saw a remarkable increase in attendance and in enthusiasm. And we are now upping to 2 a month. We were going from 4 a year to 2 a month. So there's going to be one on a Thursday, one on a Friday or Saturday each month for the foreseeable future. And we've kept it local. It's all about the local comics. It's all local comics getting, you know, and we wanted to give them something that they weren't getting other places. Everywhere else they go, they only got 5 minutes. Here you get 10. And if you win, you get a chance at headlining a future game. So you can do 20 or 30 minutes. It's a way to get the comics an ability to grow as a comic. And so that's where we're at.
I moved here. I had been doing comedy in other places, and I moved here knowing absolutely no one.
I'm so sorry.
And but it's an easy way to get the people to know you. Get up in front of them and say, hi, my name's Grant Fletcher.
I have always wanted to do stand-up. Like my entire life. Since I was very little and watching unsupervised reruns of SNL and Comedy Central Presents and all those. I didn't actually do it until I was a senior in high school, where I cheated my way onto a comedy contest and yeah, quote unquote won, right? And I did it in that contest the first time when I was 17, and I did not do it again for 4 years. I think I was scared, I guess, and then the first time I did it was, first time I did it again was at the Funny Bone during one of Tim Joyce's classes, doing the showcase, and I loved it, and I've been trying to work as hard as I possibly can at, you know, getting better at it since then, and that was February of last year, 2014.
I started doing comedy in like high school. Like, we had a talent show, and I decided to do it, and it was brutal, but I thought I did pretty good. Like, the mic shut off when I was on stage, and then the guy had to come up on stage and give me a new mic because I didn't know what was going on. So about like 4 minutes of my material was gone. So yeah, that's basically it. And then like 2 months later, I came here and been doing it ever since.
So I didn't start here, but I'd say it was a restart.
Right.
I didn't bomb my first time, so
That's
then I just kept doing it.
In your company's daily.
Good. That's all I know. So, you know, I can't compare it to anything like, you know, New York or LA or anything like that, but I enjoy it. I mean, it's all I do now. And I think it's bigger than I thought it would be. There's more people. I wouldn't have guessed that we would have, you know, because I'd heard the term before I started, comedy scene, but I thought that was exclusively for, you know, bigger cities, you know, even not quite so big cities like Portland or, you know, Chicago and stuff like that. I never would have thought that Syracuse has one, but we do, and it's not bad, you know?
Well, I've done like only 2 shows outside of Syracuse. And everybody that does comedy around our area, they're like really nice to one another. Like, they're really supportive. But like, I went to New York City. This is the other place I went to, and they can be brutal to you at sometimes. Like But the last one I went to, they booed a comedian off the stage. But it was all comedians in that audience, so.
Yeah, it worked out to my advantage. In New York, there's tons of comedy rooms, and there's the whole spectrum of comedians, from phenomenal to atrocious. And Syracuse gave me an opportunity. I've been doing comedy for over 6 years when I came to Syracuse, and Syracuse isn't the home of any real headlining comedians, so it was easy for me to work my way up towards getting legitimate spots. And the shows that I was doing in New York City leading up to coming to Syracuse, I would typically get 8 minutes stage time or 15 minutes stage time, but no longer. And when I came to Syracuse, within the first year I was here, I started getting a couple headline spots in areas in Syracuse, Rochester, Binghamton a lot, and I worked my way up at a local club, Wise Guys, which subsequently shut down, and I headlined there for a while. So I was doing 45-minute spots. So I was getting more stage time with less performances. Instead of doing like 20 10-minute performances, I was doing like 2 45-minute performances. And it changes the dynamic of your comedy when you have to sustain a longer set rather than just really quick setup, punch, punch, punch. You know, so it changed, and it was positive in nature. I like the Syracuse comedy scene.
I think it's been great. Like, there's ups and downs to it, to doing comedy anywhere, but for Syracuse, there's specific benefits and disadvantages. You know, like, one benefit is that you get a lot of stage time really early when you really shouldn't. You know, you probably shouldn't be doing 15 minutes at a real show within 3, 4, 5, 6 months. You know, because in New York City, I know a lot of comics who do the same 5 minutes, but they have like 20 open mics minimum that they, not minimum, but like around that. Yeah. You could do more a week, whereas you maybe had one here, and then someone will book you off of that, and then you have so much more time.
The cons, not that many people. We don't have enough people to build up a scene as we rightfully should, because if you look at places, you know, closer to like Rochester or Buffalo, they have a lot of comedians, you know, compared to us. You know, still not as many as, you know, New York or LA or anything, but still a lot. And what a lot of, you know, comedians don't enjoy doing is putting on shows or going through the effort of producing shows. And when you have more comedians out there, there's more of a chance of them willing to do that because there's just more of them. And they have more going on in their scenes just because they are larger in population. So I think all Syracuse really needs isn't necessarily more comedians, but we could do with a little bit more motivation too. If everyone in Syracuse, out of, you know, maybe the 20 or 30 comics that are here, could figure out a way to put on a show, even like all of us just try to get on one show just once within a year, we would have a lot more shows.
I've enjoyed it. Comedy is sort of its own little underworld, no matter where you are. It's a group of misfit people that get together and get up on stage and try to make people laugh. So that's the same whatever community you're in. It's very... it can be very sophomoric, and you know, people are very territorial of their time on stage, and rather than just getting up or sitting there and enjoying what the other people are doing, it's, oh, that's my joke. And so, but again, that goes on pretty much in any community.
I mean, it's tough because there's not a lot of spots, and it's not like, as far as crowd-wise, it don't always be sticky outside of the comedy club. It doesn't, so it's tough in that respect. But you know, you just gotta keep going. Like you just gotta keep doing. Whether you gotta do it in your room, you gotta do it in the bathroom, in the shower. Just go over your set in your head, man. And, it makes you grind more, because if you know, since we do have few spots, so we're probably going up at the same spots, you know, continuously. So you know, forces us to work on our material and switch our material, because we don't have that many spots to go to. So I think it just prepares us a lot quicker than probably other areas would.
Pros, not too many people, so we don't have enough people to get cliquey or have too much drama. I mean, it happens because, you know, we are animals, we are people or whatever, but, you know, we all do the same thing. You know, if one of us doesn't like someone else, that person's fucked, because, you know, we're all at the same place all the time. You know, there's no like 3 different venues all going on one night. You're either here at O'Day's on Thursday or you're not doing comedy. Well, I mean, of course, it's Funny Bone, but, you know, not all of us have that option. And, you know, with so few people, it kind of, I think, promotes us to have to get along. And I mean, we do, for the most part.
The disadvantage is, like I said, you don't get a lot of time to practice, so it's like sink or swim, basically. Whereas if you had a lot of repetition, you could probably basically like improve a joke much quicker. So, and also like, I don't know, I mean, I like it. It's almost like a small town feel, like compared to the bigger cities that I've been to do comedy now. Like, I like building a following from the bottom. Where, you know, like now people will see you in the grocery store, in the Wegmans, and they yell at a line from your joke that probably you don't want to hear. You know, like you're in line buying a rotisserie chicken and somebody's like, skeet, skeet, and that's kind of weird. But I'd appreciate it. That's basically like saying, hey, I enjoyed that joke you did. Probably not appropriate to skeet, skeet at me in the line at Wegmans, but, you know, whatever.
Syracuse, as opposed to what I also know very well, New York City, is that there's far less comedians. There's still some, strife that goes on like in any workplace, but generally speaking, it's a more productive and supportive group of comedians that you work with. People are friendly to each other, and the one thing that was oddly different about my group in New York City and the group that I work with in Syracuse is the group of comedians I was working with in New York City were a lot of them were rock solid comedians, but they weren't writing new material all the time. They were doing the same set I was there for 6 years, and I heard some of the same jokes all 6 years. They never let them go. And subsequently, I didn't write a lot. And when I came to Syracuse, I took my writing more seriously and was doing different sets every night, and I progressed a lot more. And so were the other comedians around me, like kind of developing. And if you take like a cross section of any city, whether it's, I've done a lot of shows in Tampa and St. Petersburg. I've done tons of shows in New York, Brooklyn, Jersey, and I've done tons of shows in central New York. I would say that the cross section of comedians in central New York is on average better. I'm not saying that they're all good comedians. I'm just saying that there's nobody genuinely atrocious, and in New York, there's that you can find a lot of that. You'd go to a show and you'd see one phenomenal comedian, but then you'd see like 10 people who are just have no business being on stage. In Syracuse, there's still a spectrum, but I think we all work hard, and our cross section is above average. I honestly feel that way.
I did a show a couple of months at CNY, and I did a Funny Bone show about a year ago. That went pretty well. I had a fan, I guess, or two, because I was at the tree shop or whatever that place is called in Mattydale.
Yeah.
and she liked my work. Yeah, like a year and a half into it, I tried to. And it never happened.
Huh?
It didn't go over well. I'm trying to get another place. I won't say the name or anything, but I am working on something right now.
When I initially started, I think I was only like 2 months in, and I was like, I want to produce a show, like an idiot, because you don't do that, I think, outside. That's lesson learned. If I had to give any advice to anybody just from like personal experience, do comedy for like a year before you try to run a show. Because this shit's stressful. It's not easy, and putting one on is, from nothing is even worse. I pounded the pavement, tried to look at a bunch of local places who might want to do something, and businesses have no, what am I trying to say, investment in it from the get-go. So they're just like, sure, there's a lot of stress trying to get to talk to people in the first place. And then the ones who did talk to me was oftentimes a no. And then when you finally find a place that, all you want to do is just start it up to get regular stage time. So, we made all these bad mistakes like, we don't want to get paid for it, we'll do it for free, which is a huge mistake because if they're not spending any money, they have even less investment in it and aren't going to do anything on their part to help make it better. So it's all on you, as the producer of this free show, to try and get people in there. And the sad reality is that nobody wants to fucking see amateur comedy. It's not a thing that anybody goes and seeks out. People go to the funny bone. They're not like, oh, let's go watch some guy die on stage for 5 minutes,
Every now and then something will pop up at another bar for like a one night only type of thing, and then go away.
And I was not allowed to perform at the only club a few years ago. I just started producing my own shows down the street at a small theater, and then when people see that you produce stuff and it's presented professionally, like nice flyers, and you actually sell tickets and stuff like that, then other people are like, hey, you want to produce this show? That's how I actually helped bring Doug Stanhope here, which is
cool.
Like kind of ridiculous, yeah, but
I love him.
Yeah, Kristen Becker from Buffalo, she doesn't live there now, but she used to be the general manager of Helium, and she just called me up one day and was like, hey, you wanna produce a show for Doug Stanhope? You gotta find a theater with more than 200 seats. I was just like, yeah, right, that's crazy. Yeah. But I knew it would be really stupid and something I would regret if I said no. So I called a comedian friend of mine from here, and she helped me, and they had like 500 people there. It was crazy. So
I think it's a couple of problems. Syracuse is a tough town to keep something going for a long period of time without really having some aggressive marketing behind it. And some of the bars, they want to do it, but they don't want to spend any money to actually do anything with it. So you got to find a place that's willing to invest. And you got to find somebody who loves comedy. And it's hard, people are at the bar, they're talking at the bar, and somebody's up there on an open mic. That's why we've stayed away from open mics, and we're just doing more, showcases. But we support George O'Day's open mic. I've gone to it a couple of times. R.J. McCarthy's running that. Anna started it. That's a great place for comics that aren't quite ready to do showcases to get up there and try, and even comics that are, get up there and try new material, see how it is in front of an audience, which is a whole different, it's a whole different thing. Breaking in your bedroom or whatever, or over dinner, and then you put it on stage, and you're like, oh, that didn't work. So.
Yeah, like nobody fucking seeks out that's not what they come and go see comedy for. They want to see something legit, so you have to trick them almost to a degree. When you do these open mics, whatever, you got abilities, comedy showcase and all that, and there's just a lot of headaches like that, and a lot of hoops to jump through. Putting on a comedy show is like no other endeavor that I've ever gone through, and I think out of most people in the area, I've had the most failure at it. Because I can't tell you how many shows I've attempted to put on or support and help become something that have either just totally fallen apart, not met expectations, or just never come to be something. It's a lot of stress.
It was almost like Syracuse has had comedy for a long time, right? Yeah. There's some really great comedians who are from here, who like maybe even started here, then moved to New York City or whatever. But then it hit a lull, and it was really nothing for a while. And then they started doing open mic nights, and all you need is some people to be kind of serious about it, and then you build up a comedy scene. Whereas I think it was lacking a comedy scene a few years back.
No, what I've started is a comedy contest.
Unforgettable comedy competition, right?
Exactly.
That's our big local one.
Yeah, because I was tired of going to other cities and competing in their contests. Syracuse is a good college or a good comedic town. Why don't we have one? So rather than just start something weekly, I started something that runs on an annual basis and benefits a local charity. Between the two big comedy rooms and a couple good open mics, if one open mic disappears, another one pops up not too far down the road. So, I mean, there was one point here in Syracuse you could do a comedy club, a college bar, and a county bar all in the same night, and that was great.
I made my own opportunities. Like when I was not allowed to perform at the only club a few years ago, I just started producing my own shows down the street at a small theater, and then when people see that you produce stuff and it's presented professionally, like nice flyers, and you actually sell tickets and stuff like that, then other people are like, hey, you want to produce? But then it hit a lull, and it was really nothing for a while. And then they started doing open mic nights, and all you need is some people to be kind of serious about it, and then you build up a comedy scene. Whereas I think it was lacking a comedy scene a few years back.
No, what I've started is a comedy contest.
Unforgettable comedy competition, right?
Exactly.
That's our big local one.
Yeah, because I was tired of going to other cities and competing in their contests. Syracuse is a good college or a good comedic town. Why don't we have one? So rather than just start something weekly, I started something that runs on an annual basis and benefits a local charity. Between the two big comedy rooms and a couple good open mics, if one open mic disappears, another one pops up not too far down the road. So, I mean, there was one point here in Syracuse you could do a comedy club, a college bar, and a county bar all in the same night, and that was great.
No, because there's like 3 open mics a week. And then you do get shows apparently sometimes. Yeah, I know. I get shows.
CNY Playhouse and Syracuse Funny Bone, they like, I feel like they support the local talent as much as they can. Like they're not just gonna like throw stuff at you. You have to kind of make yourself known. CNY Playhouse, I'll start with that. It's been around, I think, before Funny Bone, but they were just doing plays mostly and improv. And like I said, you start to meet more people when you do different venues and different shows. And so then I went to an improv show where they had like one comedian on, per improv show, the Syracuse Improv Collective. And the art director, Dustin Sarney, I think that's how you say his last name, he said I would like to start doing stand-up comedy here, like a show. So so he and I started the Q's Comedy Showcase. But at first it wasn't the Q's Comedy Showcase, it was just whatever theme show. Like the first one was on Good Friday, so we called it the Bad Friday Comedy Show. And then after a while, I started the open mic at all days, you know. And so basically I just started those things so that I could give them away to people. So like after a while, you know, like with CNY Playhouse, the Q's Comedy Showcase wasn't mine. Like my hand is not in that anymore, but you know, I still support it and everything. I think that one is more kind of supportive of developing comedians, you know, like you don't have to be all the way to ready to go and feature or host at Funny Bone, but you can get a shot at winning, you know, a showcase and then headline or close a show, like do 20 minutes on the next one. So in that sense, I think it's kind of an organic artistic space at CNY Playhouse.
Well, you know, it's really been defined over the last 6 months. I think our role in the local comic scene is to be kind of an intermediary showcase for comics that are established. They have, you know, teams. They've been perfecting them at the open mics, and now they get a chance to do it in front of a larger audience in a competition format. So it's a way for them to grow their, you know, with a longer set. It's a way for them to grow their you know, ability as comics, and that's what we're set up for. Every now and then we'll bring in a Moody McCarthy or Nick Mara, somebody who's a professional with local ties. But you know, and we got Carrie Gravenson coming in March because we're doing a ladies show, and we wanted to have a you know. But for the most part, we're going to stay away from that type of you know, showcasing, and really just make the showcase about the local comics, the people who win the previous performances, and just try to grow from there.
CNY Playhouse, man, it's cool. It's another stage area, you know, once a month or every now and then, and it's a good spot. It's just another stage, another mic, another place to perform in front of people, which is cool. It helps, you know, outside of the main club, which is Funny Bone, man. Now, Funny Bone, it really helped me grow because now you're in front of a bigger, you know, 300-400 people, you know, a night, possibly 1,200 people for the weekend you could be in front of, and you know, it's so yeah, it forces you to step your game up when you're in front of people like that many people, and in some of the other professional tour comedians that you may be working with or be in front of. But I mean, CNY Playhouse and Funny Bone have definitely helped right now as far as, you know, giving a place and a platform to tell jokes, and plus, you know, the nice they're building, you know, Funny Bone, you know, builds growth.
Right.
Playhouse builds growth.
Yeah.
Playhouse is a good spot, man. It's a good stage, good people. You know, sometimes, you know, it can be hit or miss with the crowd, right. But you know, still, like I said, it's another place, and it's a good atmosphere. It's a friendly atmosphere. The people there are great.
Oh, cool.
And you know, Funny Bone just provides a bigger venue.
CNY Playhouse is great. I just realized I neglected to mention it, as you know, when I was saying there's no really good alternative rooms. Although I still think that holds true to a degree because he books just so many people, which, again, not a bad thing because it makes Syracuse in general look better booking all these out-of-towners. So I enjoy it. But, you know, as Syracuse locals, we don't get regular stage time there. So it's like, you know, for me, it basically is only a thing in my mind every like 4 months because I've only been there 3 times on stage total in the past year. You know, and they were all like 4 to 5 months apart, and that's just because, you know, his sheer booking power and his ability to bring people out. Again, nothing against it, but I don't really. It's not as good for Syracuse's comedians as having a show that is, you know, they could perform on more regularly. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, the Funny Bone, I would have to censor any ill will towards the Funny Bone, but they did kind of oust my primary home club, which was Wise Guys. It was kind of like the mom and pop comedy club of Syracuse that had been around and established for a long period of time. I worked my way up in Wise Guys, and when the Funny Bone came in, it was a bigger venue, 4 times the size, 400 seats instead of 100 seats, and took the business away. So like there was some resentment there, but no, I think that Funny Bone's a great chain. I don't think it helps Syracuse comedy whatsoever. They bring in headliners from out of town, and it's like a corporate model for comedy, and it's good for the genre of comedy, but it's not great for Syracuse comedy. I think CNY Playhouse is definitely more advantageous for the community of comedians that work here. So I support the Funny Bone because I support all stand-up comedy endeavors, but if you're talking local comedy, I don't think it aided local comedy.
Well, I mean, having Funny Bone in Syracuse is a help. It really is. I mean, they're a behemoth, you know, but they're bringing in all these national acts, which are great. I mean, the fact that they're here, not in Rochester, not in Albany, not in some of these other places that may have more activity and more population, is important for, you know, for Syracuse, I think. You know, I go to Funny Bone shows, you know, they're great. And it allows me here at the Playhouse to kind of do an alternative as well. So if you didn't have Funny Bone, I'm not so sure, you know, the Q's Comedy Showcase could, you know, be out there and, you know, presenting the local side of comics. Because Funny Bone helps with local comics too. I mean, it's on Wednesdays or something like that, but they get people, they give them stage time. And stage time is important, because you know, as a comic, stage time is life.
Funny Bone's in the mall, and everybody goes to the mall, like Destiny. They always go to Destiny. So there's like that place. So I feel like more people know that it's really good. Like, I feel like after Funny Bone, there's going to be more places that are going to try to open up around Syracuse.
And Funny Bone is, you know, almost the same thing, just because of its legitimacy. I feel like it kind of shuts out a lot of the, you know, amateur comedians, because the closest thing they have to an open mic is the showcases, and for whatever reason they pull back on doing, you know, just the random showcases, and they're more focused on either the Clash of the Comics or the showcases that are tied to the class you have to take with Tim Joyce. And, you know, I'm not going to pay $50 every time to get on a showcase like a couple weeks later. It's not going to happen. And the Clash of the Comics is a bringer show at its worst, really, because, you know, you talk and bring 10 people and you still might not get on stage. That sucks, you know. And we can't have that kind of stuff in a small town like this. That shit barely works out in New York. And, you know, they're trying to force it here in small town USA. We just don't have that promoting power on our level around here. So, you know, for the local comics, those venues are great that they exist because they offer us opportunities, but we desperately need something that, you know, is more wholesome for us, I guess, you know, because all we need is stage time. And, you know, as great as those venues are, we don't really get that in a really quantifiable level, I guess is what I'm saying.
They both embrace the local comedians. They give the locals a chance to showcase their talent, and especially in the case with Funny Bone, if you're good, they give you more stage time, and that's what every comedian wants. And what better way to get stage time than through a national branded franchise like Funny Bone.
Whereas, you know, Funny Bone, and they know this, I tell them to their face, they're like the Walmart of comedy clubs. They're big business, and they have a chain, but they've been nothing but supportive of me since they started, and a couple other comics I know. So, but people don't understand. They think it's just favoritism, and they're like, oh, why do they get everything? But I had to prove myself. Yeah. You know, I had to, like, they wouldn't book me when I didn't win any showcases, kept coming in third, and finally when I got in second place, I was just like, just give me a guest spot. You know, like I wasn't asking them to book me for a weekend. I just wanted to get into a show and show them that I could do it, I hoped. And then you just, you know, you show up, you watch headliners and features, you see whatever host they have and see what works and what doesn't. You could, basically, it was like going to a class, and then they let me produce like a monthly show there called Chicks Are Funny, like co-produce with somebody named Pam Words, and it's gotten so successful. I honestly don't believe it myself. Like when I came in here, somebody told me they saw me on TV today, and I was like, that's not true. Like I thought they were being racist. I was like, you mean you watched Oprah? That's not even. But apparently, CNY Playhouse put me in some commercial. It was like, I guess a picture of me or something. I was like, I'm pretty sure I didn't act in any commercial. But,
that's cool.
Yeah, and I guess it's just like it doesn't happen overnight. So those two venues make the comedy scene kind of continue. You know, like you can work out at this open mic, but then if you prove yourself at CNY Playhouse, you could probably prove yourself at Funny Bone. You know, like it's just kind of limited though.
Yeah.
Those shows cost a lot more money, and 300 people is no joke to get up in front of for like a new person. It might be hard, but plus they have amateur showcase there too, you know, that support the comics. I think that gives you a shot. Like anybody could win that, you know.
That's our first foray into that. This next time is they usually do workshops, like one-day workshops. We're doing a 6-week stand-up class,
which is more the typical setup of the stand-up class.
I think so.
From what I've seen.
Yeah. And that's going to help some people that want to do this develop some sets, and they get a little performance at the end. And Nick Marr is running that, and Nick is a professional comic right here from Syracuse. And he's going to really teach them the ins and outs of the business. So it's good for newer comics, it's good for established comics, it's a good class for everybody. We get into our insular communities and we say, oh, well, everybody knows who Dustin Sardi is, or everybody knows who, some particular actor is. There's like 4 actors in town that have a name that can like bring in people off the street that say, oh, I saw him in this, or I've been watching him for 20 years. Because let's face it, if you had a name, you wouldn't be here. You'd be down in New York City, you know? And if you had that kind of talent, not that kind of talent, but that kind of drive, that's where you end up. Now, I'm not saying that, that there aren't people that are incredibly talented out there that are deserving. It's not about deserve, it's about reality, and the fact that, I've laughed harder at local comics than I've had at national acts, but that doesn't matter to Joe Blow on the street who doesn't know that, and there's a stigma amongst any kind of local performers. It's going away a little bit, but and I deal with that on my theater end as well, where there's always a stigma of community theater that it's not good, that it's not professional. There's a stigma of local music artists. There's a stigma of local comedy, local comics, that we're so close to New York City. If they were good, they'd be in New York City. And so that I think drives a lot of audience members' decisions. So you have to give them something else. You have to give them some other kind. You get the friends and family, but like what we do with the competition format, the audience picks the winner. A lot of comics don't like that, but the audience likes it. So the comics don't like it, but the audience does.
The biggest thing is the comedians need to work more with each other rather than against each other. They need to, if somebody gets up and has a premise for a joke and you have an idea that would make it a better punchline, go ahead and share it. If you don't like something, tell them. We're all out here for the same reason, and that's trying to make people laugh. And nobody wants to struggle doing that. And if you have a way to help somebody, karma's a wonderful thing, and especially in the comedy world.
Funkin' Waffles is okay. I mean, here's the thing. Any comedian in their right mind would always rather be at the Funkin'. It's all we have as a legit comedy room. We don't have a great alternative room. And when I say that, I don't mean, mics or anything. I just mean, some kind of regular stage time that local comics get for like a paid gig, because that's all we want to do. Our mics are okay, but we don't have enough of them either. O'Day's here, I love it because, it was given to me and it's, kind of like my adopted baby and all that. And Funkin' Waffles is what it is, I have a love-hate relationship with it just because of all the times that I've absolutely tanked there, the times that I've done great. It's very valuable stage time, but you can't really measure either of them because you're talking 2 mics in a week, and I think you have to get on stage at least 3 times in a week to, even remotely come close to meeting your end goal of being a stand-up comedian. And what we have here, it's stage time, don't get me wrong, whether it's good or bad. I think it's all cumulative. But I think we could do with some better open mics and more of them.
Yeah, I wish there was like an open mic every single night.
Yeah.
That way if you go to every single open mic.
Like they have in New York and Chicago and LA.
Yeah. That'd be a blast.
I'm aggressive at marketing any of our titles because you need to ask people to come to something, and you need to break through what I call the media filter. People can always say, "Oh, well, we pay for advertising, blah blah blah." Paid advertising is only good if you can pay for a lot of it, and then the return on it is not as great. I don't have a bar license here. I have a caterer who comes in and does the bar, so I'm not generating any profit off that. They keep that. My profit is only on ticket sales, and so after I pay the comics, the winners, and the headliner, I got to get a decent crowd in here to even have it. Now it's not all about it. We're a nonprofit agency, so just having people coming in, but we try to use all of our events to build the other events. So at every event, we advertise our next thing that's going on. But also, we have an email list, we have a Facebook presence, we have a Twitter presence. We do flyers, we do posters. It's hard to, and we also got media sponsors. We got the New Times and Dinosaur Radio to sponsor the Q's Comedy Showcase, and that helps us break through the media filter a little.
No, I think Syracuse is a good place to start out because after you do, like, stand up here is a lot less, like, you don't have to have as thick skin as you would in New York or something. Like, you don't, I feel like it's a lot harder to do what you want out there. Like, there's more opportunities, it's harder to get because there's more people.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. Well, you know what? I do know. I wouldn't want to because I don't think I would have the same motivation that I do now because I feel like in those larger cities, you fail so quickly, and I feel like that may have been damning for me. It may have been overwhelming to a degree, and maybe I wouldn't be where I am now, still doing comedy a year later. I think the right thing to do is to start in a smaller city, establish yourself to whatever degree you can, and then go to the bigger cities.
No, New York beat me down and really made me sort of despondent, and I actually took a break after I left New York for about 6 months before I picked it up in Syracuse. No, but I'm glad I did it in New York because I had the chance to work with some legendary comedians, Greg Giraldo, Bill Burr. I did a bunch of shows with Jim Gaffigan. I met Richard Jenny. I did a number of shows with headliners who were well known, and you get to meet them and talk to them, and it's just like one of those cities that can wear you out, and it's hard to get on top. But when I'm having started in New York, it was a good place to go, because when I came to Syracuse, I was ready and I had already developed my style, and it was easy to get ahead in this scene. It was an easier scene to get ahead in. So the hard work I put in beforehand was worth it. I think if I'd started in Syracuse, I probably wouldn't be where I am, which is not really that great, but hopefully it will turn out better.
Like if you asked me that question a couple years ago, I probably would have said something different, but now I would say no, because I think I benefited more from a smaller pool of comedians and having to really appreciate every amount of stage time that I got, and then have to go days without it, you know. So you have to make every show count, whether it's an open mic or whatever. So I don't know if I would have done that. I probably would have gotten lost in a sea of comedians while it was still early on, and I wouldn't have gotten a lot of stage time. I mean, I would have got a lot of quantity, but not quality stage time. A lot of open mics in New York City are brutal. Like, I've never done one. I've only done like book shows down there, but
I've done a couple of open mics.
oh yeah, I saw one and it was horrible.
It's usually all comedians.
Yeah, it's soul crushing. It's all comedians usually, and then they get up and walk out when it's somebody they don't know. So
Going to a big place, you're just a small fish in a bigger pond. There are enough comedians in any town. You might as well take your chances in a smaller one and build your brand and your talent there, and then take it to bigger towns. I did. The experience that I had starting in the Rochester area was very similar to here. You take a comedy class, and at the end you are guaranteed stage time, or you go to an open mic and you listen to others, and if you're brave enough to get up and do some jokes, that's pretty much the start in any community. What makes it nice here in Syracuse is that it's just not a county bar to get that experience. When I started here, there was a comedy club that isn't even in existence anymore. It was that opportunity. I think that helps tremendously as well.
I read this online, and these aren't my own words. It was Steve Hofstetter. His advice is, you don't have to immediately pick up and move to New York. And I'm paraphrasing here, but it's actually probably a bad idea because it's better to really establish yourself where you live and then move. And the way he words it is that if you can't make a splash in your hometown of small town USA, how do you expect to make a ripple somewhere like New York or LA? And I think that resounded pretty sound. I think that was pretty smart of him to say. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it made me feel really good because it makes me realize is I do want to move to New York or LA, or probably not LA just because it's so far, but to New York because it's what I want to do, and I'm going to be able to do it on a level that I want to there. And I have a plan to. But I have nothing against sticking around here for another 3 years to work on what I got to work on, gather myself, and go out there with experience, because I can't tell you how much better I'd feel going out there when you have people starting in New York and you're like, I just got here and I'm already fucking better than you, and you've been living here your whole life. I feel like that's just so much more reaffirming to your self-esteem and all that, and that would allow me to go a little bit further than I might be able to.
Well, I definitely think, like I said, it's improved from where it was, but it's not where it should be, because just because we have CNY Playhouse and Funny Bone doesn't mean we shouldn't have a lot of people attending this open mic. The one open mic, well, I guess you have Funk on Tuesdays now. And is that it for open mics? So those two for now, and that are comedy friendly, and I really think that people need to do whatever they can do, not just the host of that night, but like really go out That's how I got people to come to a show once. One of the things I did is I carried a sign, cardboard sign. I stood down in the middle of downtown on the street corner at a light with a sign that says, "I'm not homeless, I just dress like this. Come to my comedy show." You know, like, because this is a nice shirt. My friend made this, by the way, but I usually dress like a bum. No offense to bums, because they usually dress much nicer than me. if you notice, I'm like, wow, that's a polo. Is that like rap polo right
See
there?
some of the ones over on TLM dress better than me.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They got Timberlands on, so yeah, I don't have Timbs, but yeah, so like you just have to be creative in marketing. You know, you have to do good flyers. You have to actually go out. Like if there's like a flea market or like some type of music festival, you go out and you hand out little mini flyers, and you know what I'm saying? Like, no one's going to put you on the radio or the newspaper if they don't know about it. You know, like, you can get in free stuff, free calendars and stuff like that. That's fine. But you actually have to put effort into it. And, I mean, I've done that stuff already. And then I gave those venues over to other people. So that's up to them, really, because I'm kind of busy. Like, otherwise, if I wasn't, I would help, because having a successful open mic is really vital and important to the comedy scene. Like, the open mic goes, then, I mean, it's pretty much over with, I think.
I think that because Funny Bone's in the mall, and everybody goes to the mall, like Destiny. They always go to Destiny. So there's like that place. So I feel like more people know that there's, like, there was Wise Guys, and yeah, that went nowhere after a while. No offense, guys. But they kind of, Funny Bone kind of made like it was a big thing when it first started. It still is. I forgot I'll probably be going there again. And they, I don't know. It's really good. Like, I feel like after Funny Bone, there's going to be more places that are going to try to open up around Syracuse.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. My answer to that is basic demographics. I was in New York, and I did a lot of shows where you couldn't draw tourists into the room. I've done at least 300 shows with less than 12 people in the room, and that was in New York City, which has 8.4 million people. When I was in St. Petersburg and Tampa Bay, they have roughly 4 million people. You can get on stage every night, and it's still sparsely attended. The difference is Syracuse has a population of 147,300, give or take a couple if they have a flat tire on the highway. Our scene is not going to be substantial or get better unless there's an influx of people to add to the population. The more people, the better the scene's going to get.
You can't just have 2 venues and a limited amount of spots for people to get access to that, and that's it. Like with the open mic, anybody can come, and you might find a gym, or you might like a diamond in a rough, or you might actually have someone who is really developing well. Like RJ McCarthy, the host of Old Days. I remember when I first turned it over to him, and he's gotten so good, and like so it doesn't feel like it, right? Because there's not a lot of people coming to the open mic. But when he, like, I just heard from somebody else that like he went out of town, did a show, and he killed. You know, like, and that's because you don't. Like, it's just like losing weight. Not that I would know, but like when you lose weight and you're doing it like slowly, like pound by pound, open mic by open mic, week by week, you don't notice the change until you go and see somebody who hasn't seen you in a while. You're like, wow, you look really good. You lost a lot of weight. It's basically like working on your material for that extended period of time in front of really horrible audience like this. Not like this, but like in general, bar shows, places where people don't really want you there.
That gives me hope, yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously, like you have to keep doing it, and then doing it like it is a show. You have to treat it like, not just like, oh, well, nobody's here, or it's all comics. You have to really treat it like, okay, if this was a big show, this is what I would say, you know. Now, of course, you know, adapt, you maybe like make some side jokes or whatever that you wouldn't, but, so like I really think it takes more than just 1 or 2 comics to make a venue successful, you know. It takes, like anybody who benefits from this, like you make little flyers, you give it to everybody who would ever perform here and have them give them out, like, and I don't really see a lot of Facebook activity promoting some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I hate doing it myself, but I feel dirty, but it works, you know, to an extent if you target those certain people, certain amount of people.
So, and you see the Syracuse New Times kind of really starting to look at that as well. And even Syracuse.com. I mean, there's a local war movement in every area because people are realizing that if they spend, you know, just, you know, 10% more of their money in the local economy, it's going to be better than to a faceless corporation that, you know, brings in a ton of money. So yes, awareness is going to be great. Maybe some more open mics can be great. Once people start seeing success at one thing or another, they're going to copy that, and that's great. You know, I mean, you know, there's nothing new in the comedy business or in any business. I'm copying Funny Bone. You know, other people are, you know, Funny Bone copying other people. You know, Wise Guys, you know, is gone, but maybe somebody might come up with that format of the intermediate comics again. You never know, but yeah, I can see, like, you know, if the local comic scene starts rising up through the showcases with the Funny Bone and here, you can see some local bars maybe decide, but it's got to be the right people. It's got to be a bar owner that wants to invest in the money, you know, not just have some poor comic have to run it, you know. I mean, just, you know, because comics are comics, producers are different, and that's really the rare breed. And that's why I'm a producer. I do a little bit of stand-up comedy to open a show, but I know my job. I know what my role is. You know, I'm here to facilitate the showcase, you know, and the Playhouse, you know, for in general. So you got to get a bar owner who wants to do that.
Like we got Funny Bone, and then we have like that movie company that's coming here apparently, like a year ago. We've got all those. So I feel like with movies, like more comedy clubs are gonna probably want to come in here because that's more talent for them.
But the one good thing I want to mention, and the last thing I will mention, is there are several new film houses that have moved in here that are taking to filming big budget productions instead of in LA, in Syracuse, and bringing in legit performing artists. And if that boosts the scene, the artistic scene, the creative scene in Syracuse, I think there's potential, but unless our city increases in size for some odd reason, I think it'll stay the same, which is a good scene. It just won't be a hub of comedy. I think you'd have to go elsewhere. I think I would say New York, Chicago, LA, and then everywhere else, according to population, goes down. So Rochester is better than Syracuse. Syracuse is better than Binghamton. Binghamton is better than Norwich.
I don't ever hope for us to be, you know, Boston, Portland, or, you know, New York or LA or anything like that. But we could certainly figure it out and get at least as good as Rochester. And I mean, if you've ever been out there, they have at least 4 or 5 mics a week. And that's not that much, really, in the grand scheme of things. You know, you're talking 5 times a week you can get on stage. I would be in my fucking glory if I could do that around here. And that's all we need. And honestly, looking at places like Rochester, and I can't speak for Buffalo, but even Binghamton, they have a better comedy, focus on comedy out there than we do. And I don't know what the real issue is, but I think if we just got more stage time out here, or more good shows that people wanted to go to, comic and audience alike, I really think that we could fucking kill it. I mean, because you look at a place like Binghamton, you look at a place like Rochester, even Buffalo, you know, I at least see the comics from there, and they're all really good. But what I see around here, I mean, if we had 4 mics a week, everybody was working on, you know, for a year straight, 4 times a week, our comedians would be fucking amazing. You know what I mean? I don't know. We have a lot of potential, but it's just sadly untapped.
Key is getting the community aware of what's going on. I mentioned that comedy is sort of, you know, that fringe talent. It's not like a singer-songwriter that can go into a club and do an hour-long set. We primarily get 3 to 5 minutes to start our comedy careers. And the community doesn't know that it's going on, and if they do, they think, well, geez, how funny are they going to be? What people see on TV compared to the local talent really isn't that much different. It's just you're getting to see somebody an hour long on TV and only 5 to 10 minutes local. I would rather laugh a strong 10 minutes than only laugh 15 minutes through somebody that's on TV for an hour.
I mean, it can definitely grow, but it's, you know, each city is different. Like, is there a lot of people wanting to do comedy in Syracuse? Like, you gotta have the roster of people wanting to, you know, play the game, so to speak. If you have have a roster, and the people that are playing move on to different teams, then you ain't got a team to play. So you gotta have the people wanting to do it. Like, it's different. People like, you know, and maybe in New York, yeah, people want, because it's a bigger city, so you're gonna have more people with different dreams and more, you know what I'm saying? In Syracuse, you know, there's not a lot of people wanting to be comedians. Like, you know, it's just not one of those things. You know, but Syracuse is not, it's a spot to leave from. It ain't, you ain't really want to plant no seeds here. You can't, you know, it's a good spot. It builds you up in the sense of, like I was saying before, where you can get up a lot. You can, you know, it's not a lot of, you're not fighting for time because, you know, it's not that many comedians here. So, you know, when you feel you're prepared to move on to a bigger scene, you know, you have more material and a chance to work on it. So, you know, you don't start. Syracuse comedy scene may never get as big as it is now, which is, you know, it ain't that big. It's just a few of us. But, you know, hey, if it's, you know, 5 or 8 every 5 years, and, you know, it's 5 or 8 every 5 years. But, you know, you like Moody and Jesse did, you start here, but then you leave. You know, where we're at, we're up in the mountains. Now, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Up in the mountains.
I know what you're saying.
So, you know, you just, you come back if you want to. But, you know, other than that, you know, nah. LA, New York, Chicago, whatever. Bigger city, more exposure, more opportunities. But you get there when you get right.
It's nice that we have this, but this is not a permanent thing. Mics come and go, and the fact that this has remained as long as it has, with the changing of hands, with how poorly I've handled it, is amazing. We rightfully shouldn't be here right now, at all. And the thing is that it's such a precarious thing to get these shows going and then keep them going. And what you say is true. You know, if we had it on that level, you know, it'd be great. But what we need is other people to put on the shows, which is why new comics are great, because every new comic wants to put on a fucking show, because they don't know how stressful it is at first. And once you get them to do it, you know, if they find a good venue who's willing to invest in it, then that's awesome. So having more comedians indirectly is a great benefit to us. And I mean, I think that, you know, we all gain from having a wider understanding and awareness, as you put it, of comedy in Syracuse. So basically, ooh, Jesus, no, basically what everyone needs to know that I didn't know before I even started is that in Syracuse, comedy happens.
Give it up for Abdul Hadi.
How y'all doing? That's sweet. My name's Abdul. I have a very long name because I'm foreign. I I was born in Ethiopia, and when I tell a lot of people that I was born and I came here, they always give me that look like, you don't look like one of those starving children. like, what do you mean? Like, you know, like bones, the bone ribs showing, wearing the team that won the Super Bowl back in '92, and I don't know how to react like that. I'm like, well, I'm well fed because my parents love me. And I told one of my coworkers at work that I was born in Ethiopia, and he gave me this. He said something. It's like reverse racism. He said, "Oh, so that's why I don't look like a normal black person." And I look at him like, what do you mean? He said, so you know, like big lips, big nose. And I'm like, but you're black. And he's like, oh, you know, I'm talking about the black people from the hood. I live in the hood. And I don't know, it's like I get that. It's like a weird reverse racism kind of thing. Like a couple days ago, it's like a couple weeks ago, I went to Foot Locker with my friend Chris Derda, and I walked in and I looked around and I told him, there are way too many black people here for me. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like 3 or 4, that's fine, but more than that, you have a civil rights movement. And he's like, oh wow, you sent your people back 200 years. I look at him. My family was smart enough to run away from the boat, and I wasn't born here, so that's my excuse. And we were just talking about pot. I smoked some pot before I got here to shake off my nerves, and I was thinking about masturbating, but I don't know, like masturbating and smoking pot goes hand in hand. As soon as like pot hits my system, I'm just walking. I was walking around Kmart, and not Kmart. That's gone. I meant Walmart, but yeah, I'm just walking around feeling good, and I just like see someone sexy, like, oh man, I want to touch my dick. And I don't know, pot just brings, like, I don't get the munchies or anything. I just want to touch myself. Like, I'm a very sensual being. And pot brings that out. Being from Ethiopia, I have my full first name is Abdul Qadir, and I feel like having a very long name, I can't get hired at normal places. Because I applied to Best Buy 3 times, and I feel like they won't hire me because they can't get past my name. It's like Abdul Qadir. Looks like Abdul can't get a job here. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, I know I could buy the same TV you're getting. Fuck them. That's all. And like, I'm a normal person. I think so. And just being foreign brings that out. I think I'm all done. Thank you guys.
I got started in Syracuse comedy. It's a pretty easy story. I wanted to be in a band, and the guy that was going to be the singer in the band kept coming here to play music. Steve Tarnow would come here and play music for open mic, just acoustic songs. He's like, you should come out. It's a comedy mic. And I was like, what, you could play music at a comedy mic? He's like, yeah. So then I came out. I had no intentions of doing comedy at all. I wanted to do music. And then, I don't know, after hanging out and watching everybody for literally like 6 months, it was like every other week for like 6 months, I started finding myself actually like writing out a set, and I was like, that looks like that could be a blast. And I'm desperately searching for some sort of creative outlet, some sort of like performing art, I guess. And then one day I told Steve, I'm like, dude, I think I'm ready. And I showed up and the place was packed, and I didn't want to do it, and I backed out, and he's like, no, come with me, we're gonna go sign up. So we went and found RJ, signed up, and then I was last. RJ came up to me like 2 or 3 people before. He's like, oh, you still want to do it? I guess, not really. He's like, just do it. Like, okay. And then I texted Steve again. He was sitting across the bar from me. I'm like, I don't want to do it, man. I'm really nervous. And he texted me back, Carpe Diem. So I Googled real quick what Carpe Diem means, which probably everybody knows and sees the day. And then I text back like, LOL, okay, let's do it. And then ever since then, I don't know, the first time I got done, it was the most fun I'd ever had, at least in a long time anyway. I would say it's been okay. Like, it's been, I think, like 10 months or a year now. And after a while, first off, the local comedy club in the area, they do an okay job with giving locals some bones so that we kind of get away to cut your teeth, if you will, on a big stage like that. But when it actually comes to like getting shows outside of open mics, I don't know. Every once in a while you get asked and then you take them. I don't really have a frame of reference as to whether to say it's a lot or a little, because I'm just here. From what I've heard from other comedians, being here is kind of a tough place to be. Compared to somewhere like you can even see like in Albany or Rochester, it just seems like they have way more going on. But at least for me personally, it seems like it's been okay. I don't know. That might actually be more intimidating to be like in New York City and be like, I want to do this. Because you have all the professionals there and all like the big clubs, and you're like, am I going to fit into this scene? I don't know. And even if I do, you're basically sitting at the bottom staring up at the top of the mountain. But at the same time, there's got to be a billion more outlets to get going there. But here, you're kind of like, okay, here's the mountain, but I can go up and like shake their hands afterwards and be like, oh, there you go. So it might be easy. I don't know. It could be easier there. Plus, you could be around more. But here, I got lucky. Like, I had no intention to ever do comedy, man. I feel like in New York, it's all that crap's in your face. The pros are, from what I've seen in the last year, that it's growing, is one. It seems like there's some sort of excitement. Someone told me the other day that this place has never been, Syracuse as a whole, has never been in a better position for some sort of like a creative renaissance to take place. So the pro is that, and right now there's a good opportunity for everybody, and there's a huge energy around it. One of the pros too is that the community itself, all the comedians are really cool and really welcoming. I think the only con would be kind of what you touched on, where I don't know, there's not a ton of outlets to go. I love to see in my Playhouse, especially like what Dustin Zarni does, because they have this space in this mall that is dying. And they're like, we need a space to be able to put on an amateur theater. And then they tied in the comedy series as well as the improv. Because they literally did it to be a playhouse. But he gives an opportunity for people to be on a bigger stage. He also gives you 10 minutes too. Like when he books you, you get 10 minutes there. So he provides an outlet that would not be there. Like a true amateur house where you can invite your friends and family to come in, and it's not a bar where there's people at the bar talking, yelling, watching the game, rooting for the game. It's literally a well-produced comedy show in an amateur theater, which I think is great. Funny Bone too, they do an awesome job. Like they do a couple of the local shows where they give the locals a good opportunity to at least get up on that stage. And CMI Playhouse, well, like again, I love them. I think the place caps out at about 60. Funny Bone, you can do a Clash and there'll be 300 people there. And you actually get, for that 5 minutes for that night, that feeling of like, this is what it feels like to be performing in an A-list professional club. We need more mics, I think. In terms of energy and excitement about it and people wanting to get in and do it, I think it's in a good spot. But I definitely think there needs to be more outlets, and that comes down to both of us, like the comics themselves, going out and talking to bar owners and other people like that, or even us just teaming up and start throwing our own shows. I definitely think we need more outlets and we need more stage time. It's hard. Someone told me, you know, someone told me, I read it online, the difference, like how long does it take to get good at comedy? And someone's like, well, look at it like a job. You get a job, you work 40 hours a week. It could take you a year to get good at 40 hours a week. If you're doing 5 minutes of stage time a week, how many weeks would it take you to get to 40 hours times that to get to a year? Imagine it's gotta be semi-difficult, but at the same time, it could be done. It really takes one person to find a spot and then have the dedication to run it. You know what I mean? Like if I go and open up a mic and talk to some bar owner and say, hey, every Tuesday, do you want to do a mic? And he says, yeah, sure, let's see how it goes. That now becomes like my responsibility. Like RJ McCarthy's here every Thursday from 6:30 to whenever we wrap up. And before him, it was Anna Phillips. And we all kind of just looked to them. If he decided he's like, I don't want to do it anymore, maybe at this point, this thing is such a well-oiled machine, the O'Days Thursday, someone might be able to step in, but to go out and open one and then provide the dedication where every week, this is now a thing that's tattooed into my schedule. I don't know, it's gonna take someone to really dive into that. I love the Syracuse comedy scene as being one of the newer guys still, just coming under a year. Everybody has been awesome, from the people that get regular work at Funny Bone and still show up to the open mics, to the people that have done it for the first time. It seems like a lot of times, most of the times, not all the time, but most of the time, people check their egos at the door. And it's just a whole bunch of kids having fun in the same clubhouse. Everyone's real supportive, and everyone seems to support each other.
All right, cool.
And people have earned the right to be dicks, but they choose not to be.